Now, in reality, this actually said to invest for 1,610.2 months. That's taking the number of years that it'll take and multiplying it by 52. However, a bank is not going to pay us in between weeks. They only pay us interest at the end of every week. So we would actually have to leave our money in there for 1,611 weeks, which would be roughly 31 years. So how do we do this in a calculator? Of course, we don't want to be doing logarithms all day long, so let's see how we would do this. So what I'm going to do is go in my apps, access option 1 for finance, access option 1 for TVM solver. That stands for time value of money. Time value of money. That's what TVM stands for. That's a big idea, time value of money. So in here, you'll notice we have a few elements. Now, first of all, I'll go through a couple of things. This concept here only applies for the TI calculator only. So we have two types of financial transactions. We have an outflow, which is indicated by a negative sign, and an inflow, which is indicated by a positive sign. So our calculator needs to see each of these. If we're going to initially spend money, or something of value exits your possession at a given time, then that's considered an outflow and needs to be considered with a negative sign. Something of value that enters your possession at a given time is considered an inflow and will be denoted with a positive sign. So in here, we'll notice a few items. The capital N, which actually in our calculator, since it's capital, it stands for the total number of compounding periods, which is really our 52 times little t. This is the total number of weeks in our context. Now, I% is the APR stated as a percentage, so we actually want that to be 5.2. We'll hit enter. The PV, or the present value, is basically what we have as capital P in the formula. So we're going to spend $100 initially. We're going to give that to the bank. We're not going to make a payment, so we're going to leave this as 0 for now in this section. Our FV is the future value, so that's our A, which we wanted it to be $500. Now, we won't discuss these because it's more confusing than it's worth. PY and CY should both be set to N. So we are talking about 52 compoundings per year. Now, when I type in 52 for PY and I hit enter, it automatically trickles down into CY. Don't worry about the difference between these. They should both be the same, and they should be equated to little n. So we want to know how long. In other words, how many weeks, total number of weeks will this take? So to solve, I press alpha and enter. What that does is accesses the solve feature, and notice that it uses all of this information down here to calculate this quantity, and it gives a little box next to it stating, hey, you just calculated this based on the previous set of information. So this also tells us 1,610.24 weeks. This number always correlates to this down here. If this is weekly, then this is the number of weeks. If this is monthly, then this is the number of months. So that's basically how we calculate with the TVM solver. Let's do an example. In this problem, we have a money market fund currently, and we're told that money market funds currently pay fairly low rates. A money market fund is basically an account where it's split up among different types of investments, but it typically has a higher interest rate than a lot of savings and checkings. But on the flip side, you also can't do as much with money market accounts. You can't as easily deposit, withdraw. It takes a little bit more effort. So there's sort of a trade-off. ING Direct pays about 0.2% at the current time, compounded monthly. Suppose you find in 1 year that you can earn a better rate at Better Rate Bank of 6.9% compounded daily. If this rate stays effective and you invest for a total of 3 years, what will be your total balance on a $200 present value? Okay, so here's where a little thing called a time diagram comes in handy. So a time diagram is a diagram which basically, as you guessed it, it's almost like a timeline. It's almost like a historical timeline. So this is going to be from time 0, we always start at time 0, all the way up to time 3 years. Okay, and up here is where we would list our inflows, and down here we would list our outflows.